Fintan Fitzpatrick, you're very, very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Breifne. It's good to be on.
Well, it's good for all things at the moment in Aughnasheelin, top of the intermediate championship table, 3 wins from 3 games. Things look pretty rosy in Aughnasheelin at the moment. How has it been from your point of view from within the camp?
Well, look, I suppose if you offered us 3 wins from three at the start, we definitely would have taken it. But I suppose no one knows better than us, I suppose, how competitive this intermediate championship is. Like last year, I suppose we started off the year, we were flying it too, and came to an intermediate championship and found ourselves in a relegation battle. So I suppose, look, as I say, great to be off to 3 wins, but like it's dog eat dog in that intermediate championship. It's very competitive, and we can't be getting ahead of ourselves here.
Because I suppose that is a big factor. We saw last year Ballinaglara just about inched into the quarterfinals, made it all the way to the final. Yourselves would have been expected to do really, really well last year in the relegation mix-up. And now, so quickly, and even with the loss of Conor Cullen, who I know was a big loss to you, who got injured earlier in the summer, people might not have expected you to be as impressive as you have been in the opening round so far.
Yeah, look, I suppose, things have been going well, training's been going well. And look, I suppose losing Conor early in the year was a massive, massive loss to us. He was firing in the league there, and, he was, a real, real loss for us. But not only that, I suppose Cian Salmon's a huge loss too, and Philly Dolan there as well, done the cruciate. So three massive losses there for us. But I suppose, as a group, we kind of came together and said, look, we need to keep the whole thing going. And, Terence Reynolds there came in at the start of the year, Joe McGurl and Sean Mahan as well. Like, they've really, really set a good standard for us there. But look, as I said, this intermediate championship, it's I'd say there's seven or eight teams there that fancy themselves in it. I know it's going to be cut down to 6 after next week, but there's 6 or 7 teams there that will really, really fancy themselves there. But yeah, look, it's been good. Training's been going well and all that. But look, as I say, in this intermediate championship, anyone could beat anyone on any given day, really. So.
Yeah, it seems so tight, much tighter maybe than we've seen at senior grade over the last couple of weeks. But in terms of, I suppose, the actual structure of the competition, that's been probably the biggest change this year. I've been fairly on the record of saying I wasn't a fan of it beforehand. Now I absolutely love it. But I'd hate to be involved in a team trying to work out training schedules and plans and kind of just anticipating what's coming after next weekend. How has it been from the players' point of view, from your end of things?
I suppose it's been good. The change has been good. Like not knowing week to week, you're kind of coming up against the excitement factor of that, I suppose. And look, it's for us, it's one game at a time, and I'd say it's the same for every other group. Like first game out, getting the win, it was great, but like you park that, you move on to the next, and the same thing goes again. As I say, we've Allen Gaels now in 2 weeks' time, which is going to be a massive test. I'd say at the start of it, they're probably the favourites to win it out, and rightly so. Like coming down from senior last year, serious group of players there, young players. It's going to be a huge test for us, and a good test for us. But to see where we're at, I suppose. But regarding the structure, yeah, it's been good. It's been exciting, and I think it's been a good change. The round robin last year, I think, kind of went by itself by date, and it was good to kind of freshen the whole lot up. And yeah, I think as a player, it's been good, and I suppose for the spectators too, they seem to be enjoying it as well. So yeah, all positive, I say, Breifne. Yeah.
Without casting any aspersions on some of the teams you've played, they'd be the teams that a lot of clubs maybe wouldn't necessarily mind coming out of the draw. I know Bornacoola would have been not in anyone's list to progress to the quarterfinal stages, although they look like they're going to get there with a bit of breathing space. 4 points on the board so far. They're sitting fourth on the table. Drumreilly and Aughnasheelin have been a bit of a struggle at times this year for them to get going. You've taken 3 points from those teams. Next week, or probably the week after, when you actually get to play Allen Gaels, it's a bit of a different challenge. It's a step up maybe from what you faced so far. Again, with no disrespect to the teams involved.
I suppose, yeah, you could say that. Like, as I said, they came down from senior championship last year. Really, really good team, and they're full of quality players all around the field. But like there's, as I said, there's 6 or 7 teams that intermediate championship. We faced Ballinaglara this year. We had a serious battle with them in Aughnasheelin. I know Anna Duffer there as well, with some super players there, a couple of county lads as well. And I know you mentioned Bornacoola there. Like, we played Bornacoola last week. Was the last weekend? Yeah, in the championship. We got a bit of a run on them in the second half, but like Bornacoola have 2 wins from the 3 games. Like they've, it's very, very competitive. And as I say, on any given day, any team can beat anyone. And as you said about Ballinglare in last year's championship, they kind of proved that, kind of scraped through the group stage, found themselves in the county final. So look, it's exciting, it's competitive, and looking forward to playing Allen Gaels in 2 weeks' time. As I say, it'll be a test for us, but we'll see what it brings now.
Talked about last night's game. Obviously, Drumreilly, it's well spoken about across the county how their aging squad, they're all kind of getting on a little bit. They won't mind me saying that, but they've produced some really impressive performances in recent seasons, and even this year they've already got 1 win on the board. Still in with a shout at that quarterfinal spot. Talk to us about the game. It seemed to be fairly one-way traffic in the end for yourselves.
Yeah, I suppose it might have looked that way if someone maybe flicked online after the game, looked at the scoreline, but it was far from it, Breifne, really. I suppose we got a good start. I think we were maybe 6 points to 1 up after about 15 minutes. But, like Drumreilly always do, they pulled us back in and made a real battle of it. And I think it was 5 minutes before half time, they actually led. I think they went 1-4, 6 points up. We were actually reduced to 40 men with a black card, and, conditions weren't the best either. But I suppose, one thing I would say maybe for us was, I suppose, the youth that we have and the fresh legs that we were able to bring in kind of aided us in the second half. But 17 points to 1-7, it surely wasn't as comfortable as it might look online now. No, definitely not.
You talk about bringing in fresh legs and having a squad and having subs to bring into the equation late on in games. Sometimes in recent years we've heard things out of the club that maybe they're struggling for numbers. I know there was a game conceded in the championship not that long ago. In terms of where the club is now, what's the future like with the club in terms of bodies, just numbers, and I suppose the quality, as we know from looking at names that have been on county squads over recent years, is definitely there. Is the quantity starting to follow that as well?
Yeah, look, as I say, a couple of years ago, people might have been looking at Aughnasheelin and saying, look, that club is, it's going down to junior, and, there's no way up for it. But, there's great work we've done in the club the last few years. You have Niall Murray, Barry McQueenie, Shane Minotti, all these lads in the underage that are doing serious work. They are bringing up these players, and it's kind of coming to fruition now. You could kind of say, like this year, we had 6 lads come into the panel this year from under 17 last year. You had the 3 or 4 lads that came up the year before as well, and even next year I know we have 4 more boys coming into the panel, which is really, really good for us. And as I say, the young lads have brought a great energy to it this year. They're really, really good lads, pure quality with them too. And I suppose the panel is in that kind of situation now that there's a good mix between the youth and the old. Like you still have Martin McHugh there, you have Wayne Gilgun is still there full back for us playing serious ball. And as I say, you've got that good blend, I suppose, between the youth and the experience there too. And look, it's good now. And as I say, it's down to Terence there, the management, Joe McGurn, Sean Mahan. They've really, really tied it together really, really well. And yeah, look, the squad's in a good place. But as I say, losing Connor, losing Keane, losing Philly Dolan at the start of the year, big blows. But I suppose having these young lads coming in this year has brought a real, real energy to it. And without them, I suppose we probably would be in bother. But yeah, no, the club's in a good place. And as I say, even you just have to look at the facilities down there at the minute. Like, the place is looking mighty, and from the top of the club right down to the bottom, from the coaches all the way up to the chairperson, whoever on the board, it's going well now.
There's also some fairly recognisable names for fans of Leitrim football over the last decade or so. Sean McQueenie's been at centre back for you. He's been impressive in most of the games this year. Aaron Hoare, of course, and no stranger, as well as what's left of the Cullens, the 2 Cullens that are taking part with the club this season after Connor's injury. There's plenty of kind of really top-notch talent from across at county level in that squad. Is there an intermediate championship in here, or is that maybe tempting fate a bit too much?
Look, as I say, with us, Breifne, it's kind of just one game at a time now. I'd like to say we're in that bracket of maybe teams that would, have ideas of pushing on and getting to the later stages of the competition. But it's one step at a time. We'll probably know a lot more about ourselves in 2 weeks' time when we go up against Allen Gaels. As I say, probably the favourites in it, and yeah, we might know a bit more about ourselves after that game. But look, it's kind of one step at a time for us at the minute. It's but look, it's been, as I said, if you had offered us 3 wins out of 3 at the start, we'd have taken it. But you know, as I say, you have Allen Gaels there, you have Annaduff, Kiltubbert, Ballyclares, O'Kieran, all these teams. It's teams that people mightn't even be talking about that are more than capable of reaching a semi-final, final in this and going on and winning it. So it's I suppose that's the nature of the beast. And intermediate championship, it's always been the same in Leitrim. It's always a battle. And as I say, look, hopefully we'll be still in the hunt come October, but we just have to wait and see.
The structure of the championship, of course, slightly different from what we've seen in recent years. Just to clarify, we did double check it before we started the interview. You're top of the table on 6 points. There's 3 teams on 4. Allen Gaels, Annaduff, and Bornacoola, all in action, of course, in 2 weeks' time. Top 2 go straight into the semi-finals. And the way it works is if there's more than 2 on 6 points, for argument's sake, the only way you wouldn't automatically qualify is if you were beaten by Allen Gaels the next day. They'd have to beat you by 3 to leapfrog you, but you'd also need one of Annaduff or Bornacoola to win by a margin of 15 or 16 points, depending on how the game breaks with Allen Gaels. Obviously, win, you're straight through, top of the table. Everyone's happy with that. Draw, same result. But there is that option. It's very unlikely that you're not going to see yourselves in the semi-final. Is there a point of view where you think maybe that continuous week after week, getting a game, playing a quarterfinal, building up into a semi-final? Some teams are kind of half looking forward to that opportunity. Is getting straight into the semi-final where there's a bit of a break, could that be a negative for any chance of repeating what you did a couple of years back and winning that intermediate championship?
Well, look, as I say, to get the chance to play in a county semi-final would be absolutely brilliant. And if it meant getting straight through, look, we'd obviously take it. It'd be big for our lads, massive for the young lads to get the chance to get that far, to represent the club on a big stage like that, get into a semi-final of a championship. But it's one of them things. It might suit us. The fact I know we have picked up a few niggles over the last couple of weeks with injuries and stuff like that. So if we were offered the chance to get straight through to a semi-final, I'm sure the lads would take it. But yeah, look, we'll take it as it comes. As I said, this time last year we were looking at a relegation final. The chance to be considered in a quarter final is massive for us, and it's big progress. So look, semi-final, quarter final, whatever it may be, we'll look forward to whatever it is.
The only thing we know for sure is that you definitely will be in the knockout stages of the championship in, I think it's 3 or 4 weeks' time. So the very best luck to that to you. Obviously, next weekend off, I presume the club organised that so they could all attend Martin McHugh's book launch on Sunday night. Big night for the club, big night for Martin himself. Will you be tagging along to pick up a copy of your own book, or are you sick of listening to him at training at this stage?
Oh no, he is well warned. He has us all put down for an order. But look, it's great. And look, as I said, Martin's involved with us again this year, and he's working away there with Kev, the keeper. And look, he's a great man to have about. He brings a great energy to it. And look, I'm sure he'll get on the best with his book launch. He's a great man to have about. He's been through a lot, and he's brought a lot to the club over the last number of years. And I suppose just as part of the panel more than anything, he's just a great asset to have about. Kev's there in the nets now for us, and he's brought Kevin on leaps and bounds. And without him being there, we mightn't have found Kevin in the nets too. So no, it's great for Martin, and I hope he gets on the best next weekend, and I'm sure he will. But yeah, no, he has us all down to buy a copy, so I might have to get one signed from him. Maybe now will be the next thing. But
he might charge you extra for the signature, But
Yeah,
listen, Fintan, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to chat to you, get a little bit of an insight into the success that Aughnasheelin have been enjoying so far this season. Long may it continue. And that little reminder, Martin McHugh, of course, a member of that team that won that Leitrim Championship back in 1994. He has a new book out next week. Don't know the name off the top of my head. I'm sorry, Martin. You'll kill me for that. But it is being all good bookshops, as they say, from next week. Do make sure to get a copy of it. Well worth a read, both on the football side, but also on the personal side. You mentioned he's had some health issues in his life as well. Phenomenal story. Great to see him back around. Always got a big smile on his face, and how are you to anyone he knows and meets around the ground. So, Fintan, to you and everyone in Aughnasheelin, thanks very much for joining us. The very best luck for the rest of the season.
cheers, Breifne. Thank you very much. Go on.